So I'm going to throw a little something at you today, which is really interesting. So we've been talking a lot about AI on this podcast, and I think it's just where the industry is going, where the whole world is going. Yeah. So AI for construction is a pretty broad topic. So today I thought I would drop in some less broad aspects of AI and focus on AI for construction accounting, which I happen to know really well.
And you're dropping it on the construction operations guy.
Exactly, which is why this will be a great conversation.
I love it.
So I wanted to throw some data points at you first. Okay. And then we're going to get into talking a little bit about some of the things that I'm seeing and getting some feedback and just having a nice conversation about AI for construction accounting, which is a specific part of what a construction company does. It's very specific, to our industry. And AI is doing some really incredible things. And there is crossover, I think, between finance,
100%,
ops and accounting. We talk about that a lot. So I'm gonna throw some facts at you, and I'm gonna get your feedback on that. So all of these are from online resources, and they're all kind of tried and true data. So 93% of construction firms believe digital transformation will improve their productivity, and 55% of those are already using some form of AI.
Okay.
I don't think that's controversial. I think that's probably pretty close to being right.
I have no quibbles with those numbers. They don't sound off at all.
And then one of the big consulting firms put this fact out. Finance professionals will spend 60 to 70% of their time on manual data entry. That's a big number.
Yeah.
So I think if we use those 2 points to talk about AI, AI in construction and what that looks like. AI is everywhere, but in construction, it's very tangible. And a lot of the AI that we see is from the field. How to make your safety program better, how to use drones to take pictures of your job site. But AI for construction accounting is very tangible also. And I think it'd be nice to let some of our viewers and listeners hear kind of where AI for construction accounting is going.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to start you with this one. I'm going to start with budgeting and forecasting.
Okay.
So you're an operations person. That's what you've done with your career. And now you are a consultant and you focus a lot on operational issues. So you've built budgets and you've done forecasting.
Bunches of them.
So I'd love to hear maybe, what do you think AI for budgeting and forecasting could look like? And what do you think, how would you think it could be helpful to operations people?
That's a great question. I like how you framed that because you threw me a curveball there. I thought we were going to go a different direction.
Happy to oblige.
So I'm going to approach it from kind of the beginning of how do you create a budget?
Yeah.
There's a couple different thoughts there. And this is coming from I'm kind of an old school guy in the sense that we didn't have a choice. We created our budgets manually because there was not another way to do it.
There was Excel, which was a big leap forward in its day, and that's kind of where it ended, right?
Right. So from a pure budgeting and forecasting standpoint, there's some promising things out there for you could literally automate creating the budget based on historicals, based on converting it straight from an estimate. There's lots of reasons why you would want to do that or not want to do that, but the possibility exists. Forecasting, there are some promising things on the horizon this sounds bonkers to me, but I get it. I understand the technology, but it can automate forecasting. It looks at historicals, it looks at trends over time, and signals to you when it thinks you might be going over budget on this line item. But in considering a lot of different inputs, there's a lot to that. But
yeah, so you just said two things. One we're going to come back to, and one I'm going to touch on now. I was going to give you a hint, but you didn't need it.
Okay.
The trick to this, from my point of view, or not a trick, the way this works is through historical data.
Yes.
I mean, that's what you picked up on. Mm-hmm. You create a budget based off of real information, usually from an estimate, right?
Yeah.
You've won a job. The estimate is what you use to win the job, and then it's got to be created into what you're going to actually spend on the job. AI is doing some incredible things with taking historical data from jobs that are either similar or almost similar or for the same client. Let's say, whether you're a general, whether you're a trade contractor, it's taking all your historical data. So if you load it into the system well, it can spit out a very well-crafted, data-driven, budget, which is kind of what you were saying.
Right. I think I said a few things there that I just realized maybe we should define terms a little bit. I think I'm going to use automation and AI are clearly connected or cousins, but in this context, I'm going to say they're different.
Okay.
Because automation exists a lot today. Some people use it better than others, but I think the topic we're on here is more from an AI standpoint of, yes, there's an automation to it, but that there's machine learning happening is what makes it different.
Yes. Artificial intelligence AI is putting numbers into a system.
Right.
That's when it becomes automated.
Right.
You're typing numbers into a program. But then the AI takes over when it starts to think for you. Well, you're telling me you've done 10 jobs like this. Mm-hmm. You've loaded in 10 estimates from your jobs that you won, and you've loaded in 9 budgets that you've already built, whether AI helped you or not. And now you're asking the system to think ahead and build a budget by cost code, by however you want to break it down.
Right.
It knows how you've built your jobs in the past. It knows maybe how you got the job. It knows how you did on the job, et cetera. And now it's helping you build a budget for the next job.
Right. So
and that's AI.
Well, which is kind of a I don't know what to call it. That's been something people have been chasing after for my entire career.
Absolutely.
The historical cost thing.
Yeah.
Going from estimate to budget to cost happening throughout the job, and then being done with that, and then being able to bring the loop all the way back to estimating. I can't tell you how many times I heard that in the 30 years I was a project manager, 25-ish, 30 years of, and people still struggle with it today. The consistency, and quite frankly, I think the AI is smart enough to sort some of this out. The consistency between how you estimate something, you got to break it down a certain way because you need to get the detail. Then you're gonna either expand or contract that estimate to become a budget because
based on your system or
based on lots of reasons. I want to track this cost differently, or I want to And then, so that simply alone means that you have two sets of numbers that equal the same. They have the same sum at the bottom line, but are broken down in different ways.
Right.
And then let's factor in change orders just to make it more complicated. So you got a third thing in there.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, you've got a different contract value than what you estimated it as. Let's pretend you made money and it was a good job and all the good things. How to put that back into an estimate and make it worthwhile later has been a challenge for people for decades and decades and decades.
Well, it's funny. We always tell our clients, or at least I do, I think you do too, a best practice is to have a lessons learned meeting, a postmortem, a project closeout meeting, right? We suggest that because you've done the job. Why not talk about how it went? Well, this is just taking it to another level. Sometimes at the lessons learned phase, that data goes out into the room and then it dies.
Yeah.
Well, what AI can do is take that very, very valuable historical data that you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into and use it to actually make your next job easier to budget. And that's kind of the point of AI, right? It's taking something that already exists, but now you're harnessing it.
Right.
And that's something that works across operations and accounting.
Yeah. Totally. Well, yeah, especially because when you factor in, again, some of it's just automation. It's AI light in some cases, but when you're factoring in the cost side of it, so you've created the estimate, you've got a budget, you're forecasting. That's a different function than just costing.
Yep.
So the costing side of it is you've got, there's tools that exist today that can read the invoice, code it for you. It hits the job. There's a human function there to do some checking, of course, but it, I don't want to say it eliminates, but it
reduces.
It reduces the time and effort and it is hard to get all those invoices in and put them to the right job and put them to the right cost code and have the PM review it, et cetera, et cetera. So just that alone, that function alone is more efficient.
And that's a great segue into the next thing. So you already said this. I'll take you back to what you said. The next thing that AI is going to be big for, if not already is big for, in the construction accounting space is going to be, so it's called a few things. I'm going to call it profit drift.
Okay.
The risk of your job losing money.
Profit fade is what I've always called that.
Right.
Okay.
So profit fade, so profit drift, same concept. And I'll set the table here a little bit.
Yep.
So back to your point about making some definitions. So profit drift or profit fade is when you build a budget, you say you're going to make 30 points of gross margin on that job. And by the time the job's over, you've made 9 points and you've really lost money and you don't know why or where. Most people know they have lost money. They just might not know where. When did they start losing money? How did they lose that money? Mm-hmm. And what are they going to do about it the next time? So I think it's interesting to talk a little bit about profit fade and how you think AI could really start to look at those three things. Where are you losing money? Why are you losing money? And when are you losing money?
So going back, I touched on this idea that the machine can do the forecast, not just do the forecast for you, but give you some predictive analytics based on data inputs, historic, overlaying it with the schedule, your schedule of values, your billings, looking at your S curve, all of those things, and
your historical data,
all that wrapped in together, which is
exactly.
I mean, I don't know. A human brain can't do all that.
You can, but think of the brain drain it takes.
Oh, and it takes a long time.
Think of the energy it takes, and think of the experience you have to do that.
Say there's the gut factor.
Yeah.
When I was, when I had been a project manager for a couple of decades, I was capable of doing that by somewhat of gut feel. You'd kind of have a feeling something wasn't right, and then you would dive in and go, let me look into that. I don't know if that's real or not.
Yeah.
But it was based on that 10,000 rep thing, right? So my point is, you could have, the machine can tell you where there's discrepancies, propose solutions. You have a budget problem here.
Yeah.
All the way to tell you why, this particular subcontractor that's attached to this cost code is behind schedule.
Exactly.
Or if you have enough data points, you could even go to the point of telling you it's because the last week they've had 3 men not on their crew.
Or it rained.
Which you could figure out eventually, but you don't know right away.
Yep. Or it rained for 4 days out of 5.
Right.
You can look out the window and see it rained. But how do you convert that into knowing exactly how many days behind you're going to be because your guys aren't working? Of course, you think that. But this could give you the tangible data for that. What does it mean to lose that money? And what does it mean today to lose 4 days of work? But what does it mean 6 months from now to lose that time?
So this just occurred to me, and I don't even know. I don't know what I'm about to say, but I this is a thing. So I'm a baseball guy. I love baseball.
Yep.
So baseball, sabermetrics and all the data that's in baseball today started late 80s, 90s, big time.
They made a movie about it.
They made a movie about it. They made Moneyball. They wrote a book. A guy wrote a book about it. But data analytics is huge in baseball now. But it's taken a couple decades for it to really take. The Braves just just got a new manager, right?
Yeah.
And there's been debate about how old school versus new school is he. Walt Weiss he's in his 50s, I guess, right? Maybe he might be 60, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think he's in his 50s. The point is, I remember him playing.
Okay.
I think he played in he was with the Braves in the late 90s. So the point is, they were debating, is he old enough to satisfy the old heads and this is baseball and it's by experience and feel, and I can watch a pitcher or I can watch a batter and figure out what's wrong, what the hitch in his swing is, versus the newer school that says I can film that and run it through data analytics and I can tell you what's wrong with it. And there's this thing happening. I say all that. I set that up to say that construction is like back in the 90s
Yeah.
Of where when baseball started trying to figure out, now when you hit a ball, the first thing they tell you on the broadcast is what the launch angle was off the bat.
Right. And it's on the screen.
It's on the screen.
The strike box is there, and you know the speed.
So my point on all this is there's this, I think what's happening in our industry is that we're definitely at a tipping point, an inflection point of, there's some of it, I'm very excited about this as somebody that had done it the old way and know what I could do with some data if I had it.
Exactly.
To really make great decisions based on gut experience and having an enormous amount of data to help me make the right decision. This excites the crap out of me.
No, it's very exciting. And I think you're touching on the point I wanted to make. There's two ways to think about AI and data. One is it gives you early warning signs. That's what I'll call it, right?
Sure.
Early warning signs. Back to our profit fade. Yep. It tells you when something is starting to happen at the instant it starts to happen, as opposed to you taking, let's say, a well-experienced PM who knows his job well, but has 500 things on his mind. Mm-hmm. Is the first thing he's looking at, well, I think 3 months from now, I'm going to be off on this cost code, maybe or maybe not.
Right.
But the system gives you that early warning information. But then back to your point, just the amount of data that a system can process, right? An AI system can process, look ahead and find patterns in that data to help you make better decisions so you don't lose money either today, tomorrow, or at the end of the job. Right. That's really what's happening and why it's going that way.
You think about the learning curve that took, arguably took me 15 years.
Exactly. It takes 15 minutes now.
Yeah.
It could.
Yeah. And so you have a young PM. I don't think there's any substitution for just worldly experience and having experienced some things. You have to know what to do with that early warning. You have to have an idea of, okay, well, it's warning me of something. Well, what do I do next?
But what's nice about the accounting side of this is if you take a budget that's been created from AI and your operations team and your accounting team are on the same page, now you get some early warning signals on profit fade. Now the accounting team has full access to the same data that might only be in a PM's head.
Possibly.
And now the accounting team has really got good, actionable data to say, hey, Mr. PM, 3 months from now, you've got 3 cost codes that are about to go red 3 months from now, because the system is giving me the early warning signs. Let's work together on this to make sure that doesn't happen.
Just think about how supercharged the whip becomes.
The whip is a great example of how this could work. Yeah.
It's because it's a phenomenal tool that is, we've talked about this.
It's very old school.
Misunderstood, maybe misused perhaps, but fantastic tool.
Yeah.
Very, very usable. But then if you can have, it's all about getting the data though.
It's just better data, which is a great segue to the last point, or the last topic I wanted to make, is your accounting system, right? Where, for example, a WIP might live, right?
Sure.
There are construction ERPs that have WIP functionality built into them. Some do, some don't. Some are spreadsheets, some are not. But imagine a day when you're getting into a really good, construction ERP that has AI attached to it and can update and do your WIP adjustments for you inside the system from data that you have trained the system to use. It's might not be here today. I don't think I can say today that WIP adjustments are being made through AI, but I can definitely say there are several of the most well-known ERP platforms that are using AI, and it's only going to get more.
Well, I know that there are already there's already, I guess, not specific softwares, but tools within specific softwares that can do predictive cash flow modeling, which is pulling pieces of the WIP in, and other components, your receivables and other things that can. Cash flow is, cash is king.
Huge. There's labor forecasting that can be done, inside your system. You can put in your estimated hours. It can look ahead and tell you how many hours if you're on track for. You load your payroll data into it every week or every other week. It tells you exactly if you're on track for your labor or not, which we also say is a huge variable on a job site. On a project.
A really simple analysis, or not analysis, but what's the A word? Analysis. I just completely
Anagram,
lost
analogy.
my analogy. There it is.
Got it.
I just completely lost my vocabulary.
I chose anagram before analogy. That's weird. I don't know why I did that.
One thought about this, and I've lost the string already. So a simple forecasting function that you go through is, okay, let's assume that you've got a commitment. Hopefully you do. But if you don't, you still got a budget. And, the simplest form of it is looking at it and saying, okay, am I going to spend that much money on this line by the end of the job? That's the thought process. It's
That's
that
what
simple.
you need to know.
It's that simple.
Yeah, agreed.
In 12 months from now or 18 months from now, will I have spent $50,000 or will I have spent less or will I have spent more on this line item? It's a lot more complicated than that in practice, but that's the concept.
Yeah.
As cost is coming in, and I find that project managers struggle with this, interestingly, it's because they will say, well, how am I supposed to know what's going to happen in 18 months? There are too many variables.
Yeah.
Well, AI is pretty good at handling lots of variables.
That's one. It's one of its strengths.
So
it's looking ahead, and it's trying to take the most obvious or most acceptable outcome and pare it down into something that you can actually understand.
Think about it this way. If you were able to load data for, let's talk about productivity.
Yeah.
And which is forecasting in another kind of another way. Weather's a factor we have to consider that we don't control whatsoever.
Yeah.
You're constantly adjusting to that. If you could load, I don't know, 5-10 years worth of weather data for where
Exactly.
you're working, and that's one of the points of data that you're saying, I need you to help me forecast this to know, do we have a good productivity number here? We bid this at a certain productivity level.
Or another example of that, load in 5 to 10 years of your labor data.
Yeah.
Every time that employee called out sick,
Yeah.
or was, unable to work that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now we're working on averages.
We're working on averages. And so
It's an average of an average even.
And so the system can look ahead by using historical data and all this other information, look ahead and actually give you all that information in advance.
You could darn near be doing that real time. I don't know if you want to do it real time for sure, but I'm used to thinking about this in terms of like maybe half year or annually, biannually or annually, looking at your assumed production rates or your assumed labor rates.
Right.
And you plug them in at the beginning of the year and go, well, this is what I think based on my best guess. And then you look at them 6 months later and go, are these still working?
Right.
Are we actually getting that production?
On track?
Are we on track? Are we making money? You could do it more incrementally.
As I knew this would be a great conversation, one of the things I want to end on is as you and I always talk about this kind of in our own time here at Ascent, how important it is to bridge the gap between accounting and operations. And what I wanted to really do with this whole topic of AI for construction accounting was show that AI for construction accounting is not just for accounting people, it's for operational people too. And I think all the examples that we gave in this episode are things that affect both the accounting side and the operations side. And I think that you would agree with me, when your operations team and your accounting team are working together, with better data that hopefully the AI can give you, that's the best thing for your company and the best thing for your project.
I completely agree. I couldn't agree more. That is an ongoing theme.
It's an ongoing theme
of operations and accounting learning to get along.
We've had a great conversation about AI in construction accounting. And as hopefully is obvious to all our listeners, we at Ascent Consulting we like to think we are experts in this topic. It's hard to be an expert because it's changing every day, but we are certainly staying on the cutting edge of AI for construction. So if any of our listeners out there would like to hopefully reach out to us and talk a little bit more about AI and some of the things that we're seeing, we'd be happy to talk to you. And we thank you for listening to this episode today. And be sure to watch us
and subscribe.
Watch and subscribe on all platforms.
Thanks.